from the UK.
Yes.
I'm a trustee of Stop Holding Back.
Yes.
I'm a trustee of the UK-based charity called Stop Holding Back.
Okay. I am Hina Rana, consultant
Hi there, Hina.
psychologist. How are you? I'm from Pakistan.
Hey, yeah, I'm really well,
Ramesh,
thank you.
How are you, Peter?
Hey, yeah, I'm really good, thank you. And it's nice to finally meet you.
Okay.
How are you? Right.
Hi, Peter, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine, Ramesh, and you?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, thank you. I'm really enjoying your book at the moment. It's really impressive. It's taken the angle which I've always sort of taken on my stuttering journey myself. And it's been well written, and it's really, well, it's really transformative. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for saying that, Ramesh. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hello,
And it's
everyone.
really... Hi. Hey, yes, so how many
Dr.
people
Sam?
have you got in the call, Ahmed?
How are you,
Hi, Amber, how are you?
Christine? Hello. I hope you all are fine. Yeah, we are fine. How are you, Christine?
Hi, I'm fine.
How's your work going on in this quarantine time?
Yes, as I just said to Ahmad, we still have the lockdown in the UK and doesn't look like it's going to lift anytime soon. But I'm fine. My family's fine, which is good.
That's great. That's great.
Mm.
So I think all our panelists are there, or we are waiting for someone.
I think yes, we all are here. Just Miss Humaira is sorry, Miss Humaira is missing. I think we can start, right?
Yeah, she just messaged me that she will be there soon in a while. We can start, I think.
Yeah, sure. That will
Can
be
we
great.
start?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today,
Hi.
we are having our third panel discussion on Stammering Awareness Week. In the previous two discussions, we had discussions on what stammerers can do and can't do, and what are the challenges and issues which parents and mentors face. Today, our mainly discussion is on research based and the topic is today and yesterday with stammering. So I am Obin Ikram with my co-host Miss Sumaira Rafiq. So starting off with the session, I would like to introduce our panelist and host to the audience. Let us begin. So first we have with us Mr. Ahmad Abdullah, who is Corporate Officer of PSF Pakistan Stammering Foundation. He is mechanical engineer by profession, also a stammerer. Starting off with our panelists, we have Miss Hina Rana, who is well-renowned consultant, clinical psychologist, and visiting faculty professor at University of the Punjab and REFA Institute, which is International Institute as well. Second psychologist, we have Miss Humaira with us. She is also a consulate clinical psychologist and professor at University of the Punjab. Heading towards our speech therapist panel, we have Miss Christiane Dehnhardt from United Kingdom, and she is head speech therapist at Bennett Talk, which we will discuss in later on session. Along with Miss Amber and Miss Munazah. They are also speech therapists. And the last but not the least, we have our guest, respected guest with us, Mr. Ramesh and Peter from United Kingdom. They are both from United Kingdom and both are stammerers as well. Mr. Ramesh is NLP Neuro-Linguistic Program Mindful Practitioner, such an amazing program, by the way. We will discuss it later on. And Mr. Peter Louw, who is an author, a writer. He wrote books on stammering. And I would say authors are the most interesting people with have a discussion with. So let me turn the lamplight towards our host of the evening, Mr. Ahmad Abdullah. Over to you, Mr. Abdullah.
Thank you, Mubin. Thank you so much for a very lovely introduction of the panel. Thank you so much. I welcome panel in today's discussion, stammering yesterday, today, and beyond. So in this session, we will be focusing on the research that is currently going on and what will be the future, and also we will put light on the cultural aspects of stammering, as here we have people from Pakistan, UK, and from South Africa. So that will be going to be an amazing and interesting panel discussion, and I'm quite excited about it. So now we are going to start, and the first question, I think we should start now. And the first question is I would like to ask, and anyone from the panel can answer that, and then we will go around, and then we'll go to the next question. Yeah. As a professional, what is your experience that how society treats a person who have stammering? Yes. I think we should start with Miss Christine.
Okay, thank you. Yes, in the UK, we find that a lot of people have severe prejudices against people who stutter. And the British Stammering Association, which is the association for all people who stutter, has started a campaign last year in order to really try and get the public to realize that stammering is nothing to be ashamed of, not to be ridiculed. So it was a big poster campaign. They've also made lots of videos, which are called the Stambassador videos, of people who stutter in all kinds of professions. So professionals talk about their careers, their lives with their stutter, how it has held them back, or how they've overcome the obstacles because of stutter, to encourage especially young people looking for work who might hold themselves back in terms of their aspirations because of their stutter, to encourage them to actually pursue the career path they would like to, whether they stutter or not. So yes, there is definitely a lot of work to be done in order to educate the public, but the British Stammering Association, I think, is doing an amazing job.
Yeah, Christine, that's true. Like if I compare myself UK with here, people are still aware, but so much work need to be done. And if you see here, there is you can say a lot more work needed to be done. Yeah.
Definitely. But
yeah.
even for, you know, a rich developed country like UK, it is sometimes still shocking how many prejudice there is, how many people don't know what causes the condition and how to treat it, and that people are, prejudices like somebody who stutters is less intelligent than somebody who doesn't. This is still around. It's still around, and it's the 21st century in the UK.
The first thing, Ahmad, I would like to add also.
Yes, Miss.
I just want to say the main thing is, just to first of all, we must eradicate the stigma attached with stammering. In case of holding any sort of job, getting admissions, or pursuing career, there is a stigma like the stammerer can't do well. So the first need is to think about that there is nothing a stammerer can do, a stammerer can't do. So we must work out in eradicating the stigma related to stammering. And they people are like not with low intelligence, with low characteristics, or with some low sort of any abilities. They are like equal to the non-stammerers. So there must be some steps regarding their equal opportunities in all societies, either there is in Pakistan or UK. Work must be done regarding these areas.
Yes, Miss Amber, it is. Peter, how are things in South Africa?
Ahmad, I think in South Africa it's difficult. In my life, in my time when I was younger, I tried to create self-help groups in various places, and they really didn't last very long. But yeah, it's also and generally the awareness is quite bad here. I've done my best. I've written 2 books, so. But yeah, I think like that has been said previously, there is much to be done. Personally, my attitude is that we should not wait for society to help us. We should help ourselves. And it's our responsibility to improve our fluency and to make life as best as we can. And that's been my attitude for some years now. In the past, I was a bit of an activist, and I really tried to raise awareness. And I'm still doing so through my books and through conferences like this, but mainly it's up to ourselves.
That's true, Peter. You have explained the essence. As a stammerer, I felt that like if I'm not able to help myself, no one is going to help, and nothing will work out. That's totally true. Totally true. Yes, Miss Hina, what are your thoughts about the question?
I felt that in Pakistan, just like Christine has said, same is like in Pakistan, people are not much aware of their causes. There are many misconceptions. They thought there cannot be treated, and families and other people are not much focusing on this aspect. So stigmas are there, and they may perceive it as sometimes it linked with the intelligence. Otherwise, the people who have a stammering problem, they are more capable as compared to the other persons. So just only due to the society perception, maybe sometimes they lack their confidence. And in my perception, there is a society who promotes them towards the betterment. That's my
view. I think now we should go towards Peters and Ramesh. What's your experiences, Ramesh?
Yeah, so in terms of my experiences, I'm from the UK. I'm a trustee of a charity called Stop Holding Back, and I'm also into wellbeing and NLP, and which includes mindfulness and NLP. Yeah, so in terms of my journey, in terms of what it's like in the UK, I've lived in Guernsey as well, and yeah, from my experiences, us stammerers need to be more empowered. It's really important that we got the charities that are helping us, like Stop Holding Back, like Stammer, who are in the past known as the British Stammering Association, and we had the National Stuttering Association. But I feel that the only people that can make a lot of change is ourselves, because we have to empower stammerers, and this is the great thing that we've learned from courses like the Maguire program, which in the UK is Starfish program. It's been really helpful, and there's been great organizations that have helped us, but I feel that the answers really lie in us sort of becoming empowered in terms of our own journeys, and to really appreciate that that the answers are within us. Yeah, so for example, one of the slogans that I live to are that I can't change the world, but I can change the world within me, which is a very important sort of quote. And I feel that as Stop Holding Back, what we're doing is we are people who have a stammer, but we're really empowering people by our message, because we understand a lot of people who have a stammer, because we face up to the challenges every morning of having a stammer, and it's a journey. But in terms of society, and the individual needs to take responsibility for their stammer. It's really great that there's awareness going out there with the programs that we've got, and also the charities that are helping us a lot, and appreciate it. And this is what I thought I'd contribute.
Right, perfectly right. The society needs awareness, and for awareness, we have to launch a campaign. So Miss Humaira is there from Pakistan. Kindly share your experiences, Miss. Unmute, kindly unmute your microphone. Mr. Ahmed, kindly unmute.
I did.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Thank you, Emma, for inviting me. And thank you, Hina, for making me able to participate in today's this panel discussion. Well, let me introduce briefly about myself, and I further go forward. I completed my qualification, that is a clinical psychology, in 2005, since the journey is going on. So my experience includes both dealing with the clinical patient as well as speech, particular the stammering, the one clients. So though you can say it's about now more than a decade experiences. So in Pakistan, if you can say, if I compare 2020, compare with the 2005, lots, a bit, not a bit, lots of improvement. Earlier, there was no awareness, and the most of the clients hardly found any place to get their treatments. It was like a more like self-help basis. So there was a very least awareness. There were very few speech therapists who were available. If there is a one speech therapist, which is a Mr. Arshad, is here today, he can better tell you about previous years and the today's experiences. So there is a lot to do in present situation, as well as there are many good people who have volunteered themselves, like Mr. Ahmed. And now there, you can say there's an improvement in one way that we have now degree programs, because I'm also an educator. I work in the Punjab University, working as a clinical as an assistant professor. clinical psychology, we have a MS degree program, or inshallah in a few years we shall launch a PhD program as well as. So, and similarly, there are the few other institutes that that's working very well to produce the clinicians that we that a society needs. So this is the one thing. Secondly, that there is a lot of stigmatization they experience. Stigmatization that is imposed by the society, and the stigmatization they impose on themselves, because they start believing that they cannot do anything, society will not accept them, or one thing which is keep haunting them, the listeners' reactions. Either it's a pity, or either it's a negative in another form. Like most of the experience of the people have that people don't give them a positive gestures, or they don't understand this kind of a problem. Even sometimes people think that they want to take an advantage. They have an anxiety problem. They are the nervous. They are the shy people, or they have something wrong with their intellectual abilities, themselves, besides their shortcomings. So the clients come up with such, you can say, the self-stigmatized and the society negative responses towards them. They have resentments. You can say there's a lot of social anxiety in them. So you can say at the adolescence level, since they are to face the society, they have just entered into their teens, or the world is small for them. But as those enter into their adulthood, the world is more open to them. Now they have almost completed their education, or they have to enter into the practical life. They have to search for the jobs. They experience the rejections
So,
during
Ms.
the
Humaira,
interviews, and similarly they have the yes, you know.
it means overall now Pakistani society is moving towards more advancement and more understandable thing, you can say.
Uh, yes, if I compare 2020 and 2005,
That is the next
so there
question,
is
not comparison over
going
there.
toward.
We have, I think, next question
Miss
for that.
Christine, uh, uh, we have with us. So, like as Miss
I think
Humaira said, like here there are two stigmas, one in the mind and one is from the society. So, how are the
Yes,
things back in UK? Yeah,
it is exactly, yeah.
regarding the uh, uh, culture, does it uh, does this has effect on the stammering?
Yes, absolutely. So it is the same stigma. I'm originally from Germany, and I can confirm that it's the same there as it is in the UK. We still have, you know, when you watch films, the person who stutters is the person who's, you know, insecure, or, you know, it's just the way that people in the media are, who stutter are portrayed, enforces the stigma. And it's very true that, you know, if you grow up with this, if you're confronted with this as a child, a lot of people who stutter actually then, you know, buy into that stigma and feel that there's something wrong with them. This is why we're trying to do a lot of prevention. So I've been working with people who stutter for 22 years. I work with children, teenagers, and adults. And we're really trying to get parents to refer their children early, so we can then empower the children. So it's not just about teaching them techniques in order to be more fluent, but our approach really is to always empower them as well. And really, so we're teaching techniques alongside saying it's okay to stutter, you know, which seems contradictory, but we can't change society within a day or a month or even a year. So we have to work with what we have. And I think the best way really is that as speech and language therapists, for example, we're trying to educate society as well, as many people as possible. But if we get the little kids to stand up and, you know, in front of their class and say, I have a stutter, so what? Then there are little ambassadors that will, you know, in their class already, they will have 30 kids who know it's not a big deal to stutter, and hopefully go out. And, you know, so that's one way how we're trying to spread the words and, you know, really empower people.
Now I
true.
think we can move towards, I want to ask experience from Peter and Ramesh, that being a stammerer, what you felt or what you experienced in your society, that what kind of reactions you faced. Briefly, I want to ask.
With me, right, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, so with me having a stammer, I've been working as a teacher for about 16 years now. And I've run a really successful business where I was working as an educational consultant. And my speech used to be really, really bad. And yeah, I really couldn't speak like I'm now. It's only because I've been pushing out my comfort zones, and I've been really using a lot of fluency shaping tools that have helped me. And but in terms of answering your sort of question, one of the with me, I've been pretty empowered as a stutterer. I've been really, I don't really look at myself as like a stutterer. I look at myself as a more empowered person. It's about one of the biggest sort of challenges that a stutterer can face is that we can keep an identity of having a stammer. And that identity, it can really ruin us because we start building like negative mind states about it. And it can lead us, like Peter's book mentions, that we become highly sensitive. And yeah, so what I did over time was that I overcame like the stigma by sort of changing the identity of being a stutterer. But the challenges that I obviously faced were like the job interviews and yeah, being able to present myself well, becoming an academic field. I work with very intelligent people and whose communication skills are very good. And yeah, so those were the challenges. And when you're teaching like big classes, like I've taught like 100 students in a class, and yeah, it's been very challenging, but I like the challenge. It's been very challenging, but it's been really, really impressive. Like with me standing in front of the kids and really demonstrating my personality, and the kids really like it. Yeah, so those were the challenges: interviews, teaching. Then when I started my business as an educational consultant, my speech was really, really bad. I remember doing like sales calls. It was a challenge, but I kept on going. Like I built like the mindset of like resilience, never giving up, and always being connected to my higher self, like which is like my version of like what God is. And I've been really sort of connected, and really I've overcome my challenges by just being able to work on like those sort of challenges that I had in sort of education, as like interviews and doing major lectures in front of big classes, and in business, taking calls, representing myself, because yeah, people have the stigma, but at the end of the day, we need to that'll always exist, that challenge of stigma. But really, there's a positive side to this all, because there's always like the opposites. It's like a duality. Every struggle gives us great opportunities, and the opportunities are what really well, what I can really see now, because I've learned about myself, I've controlled my speech, and now what a challenge is are now opportunities, because I've changed my mindset and the way that I'm thinking towards those. But I know there are a lot of people out there, because I speak to them, who are really struggling with their speech and struggling with their mindset. And I really appreciate like listening to the people, because I was there once upon a time where I really sort of struggled, and the challenges of getting a professional job, getting a partner, getting accepted by society.
So,
but I feel like us stutterers need to validate ourselves less. We need to just be present with what we got, and use the support networks around us. Appreciate. Thank you.
So it means that you have a mixed experiences, positives and negatives, and you dealt with. Now over to you, Peter. Kindly share your experience as a stammerer. What kind of feelings you had?
Yeah, I can agree with Ramesh there. I can very much associate myself with what he's saying. I don't regard myself as a stutterer at all. When I was younger, yes, then I had bad fluency. But as I got older, it got better and better. I think my worst stuttering years were in primary school. High school, and high school, because in high school there is much more tensions and more pressure on you. And university, my speech was better when speaking to friends, but in large lecture halls, then I couldn't speak at all. Yeah, since in 1981, I did a wonderful intensive course with Dr. Martin Schwartz of New York, and that really changed my whole approach to stuttering. And so I no longer see myself as a stutterer. I actually avoid that word because I don't think it's healthy to frame yourself in that particular mindset. We should rather see ourselves as fluent, as people who occasionally have blocks or so, but not as a stammerer or a stutterer. That even the word makes me feel a bit uptight. So yes, so actually at my age, stuttering is not really my main problem anymore. Throughout my life, I've worked on my speech, and yes, it's really not a big problem anymore. But
Yes,
yeah.
you are right. That the most difficult time period, what I experienced through my clients who reported that their adolescent time period from school, high school towards college, that is the most transition period, and new peers are there, new responsibilities are there, they identify themselves. So that is the most critical time duration. Thank you. I think, Ahmed, can we move towards the next question?
Yes, we can move toward the question. The next question we have is how much society is progressive or even advanced in understanding about the phenomena of stuttering, comparing past years and the current situation. So I would like to start with Ms. Christine.
Sorry, thank you. Thank you. Yes, it has changed dramatically since I went to university. So as I said, I worked for 22 years. And for example, in terms of treatments for children, back then it was very indirect. It was thought that when you work with children who stutter, you should not mention stuttering. You should just make them feel comfortable and play nice games. And it was also in terms of the parents, they were advised not to talk to their children about it. Luckily, we've gone past that now because we realize that taboo, if the children realize there's something going on, like maybe getting bullied at school, but the parents pretend everything's fine and nothing is going on, that's not going to help them. So now we have approaches like the LITCOM program. Don't know if you're familiar with that. It's basically nowadays the gold standard of stuttering treatment for children. And I have personally also seen amazing progress that children can make with it. And it's half direct, half indirect. It's you're training the parents, which empowers them as well, which is often a problem that the parents feel very helpless, worry a lot about their children, but feel that they can't really do anything. With this program, they can do something, and a lot of the children who are treated with LITCOM actually get to a very fluent level, which paves their path in life in a very different way than it would have been without the treatment. So we've another advance is that we've really discovered how many children who stutter grow up to developing social anxiety. So about 25% of children who stutter already show social anxiety, and in adults who stutter that can go up to 60%. So this is an area that also, as Benetalk, we don't just provide speech techniques, we're also using a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy techniques in order to help with speech anxiety and, you know, stutter-related anxiety. So these are two big advances. Also, the Camperdown program, you know, has been, well, the technique that the Camperdown uses, the prolonged speech technique, has been around for a very long time, since the 60s. But the technique itself was developed in the 90s, and that's another really, really helpful speech technique that helps a lot of people to become very fluent. But if I may just say one more thing, what we've discovered at Benetalk is also that the crucial phase is not just teaching somebody speech technique. There are lots of helpful techniques out there, including McGuire and others. A lot of people become very fluent in therapy, but then to actually be able to maintain that level in your everyday life and not to relapse and not to start, you know, stuttering again in half a year or a year's time and having to go back to therapy. I think that's really crucial, to be able to offer something that helps in that maintenance phase. And definitely, if you manage to reduce anxiety, that's a really good way to ensure that, because if somebody actually challenges themselves and goes out and uses their techniques with strangers and in challenging situations, that's a really good way to maintain high levels of fluency. And yes, there's been lots of advances, not least of all, you know, what we now know about what actually triggers stuttering in the brain. That's a fairly recent advance, and that finally put to rest all rumors of people who stutter are just anxious, they are just, you know, nervous individuals. We now know there is a trigger in the brain that starts stuttering, and that has nothing to do with temperament.
Yes. Now I can answer, Mr. Ahmed?
Yes, please.
Okay. As said Christine, similar in Pakistan, previously there is totally towards speech modalities only. And now, being a PhD scholar, I'm about to complete my PhD, and she said that she is trying also CBT. Yes, I tried CBT with my clients in my PhD project, along with the speech integrated approach, and the results are amazing, because relapse rate is entirely different. When you focus towards the cognitions, you make a person independent, and exactly the way they learn techniques, they have to maintain that, and maintenance always comes through practice, and practice means you make it as a habit. Once you develop it as a habit, then you are successful. So now I think in Pakistan, me and Ms. Humaira, she is also doing PhD, and she submitted that. She also included, and also she did cognitive aspects. So I think cognitive and the integration approach always help towards stammering management. Not only speech can help, because speech is a one component and personal grooming is another.
Yes.
So now I think Ms. Humaira will explain, and other the professionals are there can explain better. Thank you.
Should try to take a brief time so the other may also get the time to express their views. Like Christiane has shared about the programs, the LitCon and the Camperdown programs, or luckily we hear the speech clinician as well as I and Hina have both qualification in speech therapy as well as a clinical psychologist with the children. And on the other hand, as a CBT is also using for the last many years. So when I was working on my own project, I wanted to do something new, something different. Or as Ramesh, I think, who has an experience on mindfulness. So like mindfulness, was something that captured my attention, and I have investigated effectiveness of acceptance and commitment therapy. So the backbone of this therapy is the mindfulness. Or so my personal experience of my client is that there is a one point that came, sometimes they're unable to challenge their negative thoughts. When they experience when they have their negative experience with the society, or when they cannot refute or their illogical thoughts. So this therapy basically says that whether the thoughts are illogical or irrational, you have to focus on the basic fact is that you have to mindful about your own self. If you have developed your speech skills, speech habits, you should be mindful on that and focus completely on that. Broaden your focus and focus on what you are supposed to do. That is your workable action. So during any speech situation, instead of ruminating about their negative thoughts, about the reactions of other people, about their anxiety symptoms, instead persons are encouraged uh, to have to have the mindfulness about their state and then switch their attention on what they have learned during their sessions. So it's worked very well. So because in the end, the clients are taught to learn about their own values, that is there about their life goals and what they want to do in their life. That is the most important, and give action to their goals. So that's more important. It's not important to think about that we are the stammerers. The importance is that with the stammering, what we can do, to more focus about their inner self, what they have in ourselves are the abilities, so it works. So I think there is a hope that in the long run we have the more advancement. We have a more evidence-based practices of the different techniques and then the different therapies. So I'm looking forward some any of the future students also see the effectiveness of the required program. So
now over to Ramesh. Kindly share your views. Unmute kindly.
Can you repeat the question for me, please? Would it be possible if you can repeat the question for me, please?
Yes. The question is how much society is progressive, I mean advanced, in understanding about the phenomena of stuttering. Compare past years and current situation.
What was the last part of that question? I'm trying to think sort of cognitively.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, comparing past years and current situation.
Yeah.
Like how much society is advanced in understanding the phenomena of stuttering.
Yeah, from my experience, I feel that that society is getting a better understanding of stuttering because there's been a lot of technological advancements in recent times with like more sort of work that people are working on online now. And one of the other areas that I would sort of like to share is this, that people have a better understanding of like what stuttering is, because we've got programs like Maguire, we've got the Starfish program, which are really helpful, and other areas which can be really useful in terms of being able to communicate well and to work on yourself is the understanding of like the mind and the body, because that's been mentioned in Peter's book. But one of the things that I'd like to say as a stutterer is that in order to become a better speaker, we need to have a good appreciation of the things that can help us create a better mind. And that could be like having an appreciation of CBT, which has been mentioned, NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, being mindful, yoga. It can all help us, because one of the major things in my journey that has helped me as a stammerer is all of these tools have helped me, but the tools that have helped me the most are having a greater appreciation of who I am and the journey of self-discovery that you can learn by using mindfulness as well, along with those techniques that I mentioned. Because as a stutterer, I feel that yeah, there's great courses, there's great methods of applied psychology that can help us, but the journey is really an internal one, because once we get a better appreciation of who we are, then we can become a better speaker. If we don't really go on a journey deep within ourselves, I feel it's a lot more harder. You can use the techniques, but the techniques don't really help you as much. You need to apply that to the psychological techniques like CBT, NLP, mindfulness, yoga, and everything else that comes with it, because you got to look at it as both like a physical and a psychological problem, but you got to deal with it in terms of like the fluency shaping tools that we're taught in the Maguire program and Starfish program, but you also got to use like the psychological techniques that I've taught you. But the world is better understanding what a stutter is, and there's a lot of help out there if we look outside like the normal, which is like getting speech therapy or joining a program like Maguire and Starfish, because a lot of the issues lie in sort of psychology, and they can be dealt with by the techniques that I told you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Now, I would like to ask this question from Miss Munazah. Is she with us? Miss Munazah, are you with us? Okay, I think she's not present. I think here. Yes, Miss Amber, can you put light on it? We need to repeat the question.
No, there's no need to repeat the question. I just want to say that yes, society is progressing day by day. And now people are seeking early interventions, the most important part. In last years, there was no early intervention. If someone is coming that was like 18 years, 19 years, 20 years old. But now people are coming to clinics. They are seeking early interventions, the most important part that must be done. The people must be aware of the early intervention help, the early intervention importance. So people are coming now, they are getting better awareness about stuttering. They are knowing that this issue can be resolved. Otherwise, there was a concept that no, there is no treatment available for stammering, stuttering, the same thing. But now people are getting more awareness about it, that yes, all speech issues, either it is articulation, phonological problems, voice disorders, whatever speech issue is, that can be treated. So they are coming towards clinics, they are seeking better interventions, and now they are approaching towards speech therapists. So the field is growing, and this is a good sign, but still there is a need to make people more aware, to launch the programs step by step. There's still a need, but the situation is comparatively better.
Yeah. Yes. Moving. Yes. Yes. You are right. Yes, you are right. Now, thus, society is getting better and more aware. Moving to the next question. My question is from Christine. Currently, what kind of modalities practitioners are using during speech management?
Okay, so which techniques? I think the two techniques with the most evidence base are the Van Riper technique and the Camperdown program. So they are the two techniques that are currently mostly used in the UK for people who stutter. Does that answer your question, or
yes?
Was there? Yes.
Yes, it does.
Yes, you are right. In Pakistan, we also followed Van Riper approach because it also includes other psychological components. Fluency shaping is also there, then same like integrated approach. Now I think Ramesh and Peter are there. Can you answer on this question, Peter?
Sorry, are you asking what sort of techniques are being used in South?
Yeah. Because you wrote several books, and you mentioned your recent book is Mind Body on that. So you studied, or what kind of new aspects you saw in that?
Look, in South Africa, speech therapists use the same techniques which are probably used in the UK and the USA. They just follow what is going on elsewhere. But personally, my book is all about mind-body, a mind-body approach to health in general. Now, mind-body has to be defined really, because there are many forms, and it's a very wide term. So one has to define that. But the mind-body approach, which I'm writing about, is mainly based on the work of Dr. John Sarno, MD, who was a medical practitioner and a professor in rehabilitative medicine at New York University Medical Center. And he's acquired quite a following internationally. There is a whole mind-body community on the internet. Actually, it's called TMS, which now stands for the mind-body syndrome. TMS, the mind-body syndrome. Now, and since Dr. Sarno passed away a few years ago, but other doctors have taken over. The most important being Dr. Howard Schubiner, and there's a whole lot of GPs and specialists who are now into mind-body techniques and mind-body approach to health in general. Basically, it's about the that, how shall I put it? That the mind seems to create some type certain tensions, and
Yes,
the mind-body health is all about inner conflict, which then results in physical symptoms. And examples are certain skin issues. Many people, when they are stressed, get all kinds of skin problems. Many people, due to stress again, or anxiety, stress and anxiety is really very closely connected. Those anxiety and stress can manifest in physical ways. Skin, certain muscle pains, which usually become chronic, digestive problems. Many people have heartburn, and there are actually, in my book, there's a whole list of medical issues which might be of a mind or body origin. So to make a long story short, my book is all about the hypothesis that stuttering 2 is a mind-body disorder. So it's part of a much broader family of disorders, which include digestive issues and certain skin issues. Yeah. So
basically, I'll ask this question from you because I tried to find your book, but I didn't find it, and I want to read that. That's why
you're asking the question for me? Are you asking the question of me? Yes, so what happened with me was I had speech therapy for a long time, and then I joined the Maguire program. And I was a big advocate of the Maguire program because I learned about how to speak like this, which is like a hit and hold. And I learned the block release. And that was really helpful, and the breathing as well. I wore a belt here for 2 years just to exercise my coastal breath. But in more recent times, I don't use any techniques. I've learned, because I got a postgraduate qualification in psychology, I can basically know how I'm working, and now I'm just relying on working on my emotions. I'm working on my emotions by understanding like mindfulness, using techniques that I've learned in mindfulness, learning like using the techniques that I learned from NLP, using the techniques that I learned from CBT. Yeah, I know that I'm still using my Maguire techniques because I'm breathing, I'm using the techniques, but that's because I've developed a competence in it. It's become part of my toolkit. But one of the problems that I'm really acknowledging, because I'm also doing some speech coaching now, and based on my experience as being like a psychologist, a lecturer, and also somebody who's been through a speech therapy program, I feel that one area that gets really missed is that people's emotions are not dealt with at the initial stage. What I normally say to people is that I'll work with you on your speech. I will teach you the fluency tools that will help you. I will teach you everything. But one of the issues that you need to work on, and this is the most important technique, is learning how your emotions can be controlled. Because a lot of people who have a stammer are highly sensitive, have problems with like sort of perfectionist, have problems with anxiety. And then what I do for like probably a week or 2 weeks, every day I speak to them, working on their emotions, because for me, if I can't understand them like at a psychoanalytic level by understanding what had happened in the past, I can't work with them on their speech, because emotions, if you look at John Harrison's hexagon, emotions and beliefs and perceptions are a major part of that. And in order to work on whatever technique you got, Camperdown, Maguire, Van Riper, you have to be able to understand that somebody in terms of what their mind state is like, and understand what they're like emotionally, because with emotional understanding, then you can work on their speech. Yeah, so for me, I went into Maguire, learned all of their techniques, but now I've applied a lot of psychology on my journey, but now I'm addressing stuttering with the people that I'm working with, initially on the emotional aspect. Because if we can strengthen the hexagon, then we can strengthen their speech. Then we can strengthen their speech. Yeah, because if the hexagon's not in the right place, it doesn't matter what speech technique you do, it's not going to work.
That's true.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's true. We have to work on the client's emotions. And thank you, Peter. Basically, I asked a question about your book because I tried to find that book. I didn't get it. That's why I want to read that book and want to share this. Thank you so much. You explained it about your book in so much detail. I think we should move towards next question. Mr. Ahmad is there, I guess. So I asked next question, or Mr. Ahmad is there?
Yes, like
next question.
yes,
what type of symptoms are reported by the
yes. Miss Hina, please carry on. I have some internet issue, so move to the phone. So please
okay.
Carry on.
I have a question from the therapist, that what kind of symptoms mostly clients reported when they came to you about the stammering or emotional issues? What symptoms they reported? Christine, can you answer that first?
Okay. The symptoms can be very diverse. It's usually people don't come to me and report their emotional symptoms because they go to speech therapists and think it's all just about the speech. So first of all, they will say maybe, you know, they experience blocks or repetitions or prolongations or or a mixture of them. And they say, I want to become more fluent. And it's usually me who then digs a bit deeper and finds out if there are any anxiety issues. And you know, any struggle, anything connected to that. And then very often there is a lot of avoidance, which is always a sign for anxiety. And we work on that as well as I mentioned earlier. We use CBT techniques as well as mindfulness in order to help with the emotional issues.
Now, I would like to Ms. Humaira to answer this question. Can you answer that? Ms. Humaira is there? I think she's not. Ms. Amber is there? Okay. Ramesh, can you answer this? And after that, I will answer that.
Right, sorry. What is the question that you've got? What is your question?
I'm asking, okay, I'm asking that what kind of symptoms when clients came to you, what kind of symptoms they reported mostly?
Most of them want better speech. Most of them want like themselves
Speech,
to control their
yeah,
speech. And
speech
but,
as well as the emotion component. What?
But really, in terms of the symptoms, even though they want better speech, it's a lot more than that, because a lot of people need to find their right sort of setting. They need to find the right beliefs. They need to work on their perceptions, and a lot of their beliefs, perceptions, emotions, their physical state, their intentions, and their behaviors. So even though they come with their speech problems, you can identify that they've got problems that are more underlying problems. And everybody wants perfect speech, but in order to get to perfect speech, you need to work on the areas that are important. Yes, so it's about developing the mindset and about working with them on those different areas, because yeah, as obviously a symptom is speech, but there's underlying issues which are behind somebody's speech, and they could be going back like 30 to 40 years. So you've got to understand their psychological makeup, and it's very deep in a lot of people who have a stammer. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, being a clinician, I can answer that. Now I answer this. When clients came to me, they have speech problems, like they reported that they have a blocks and more than one speech symptoms, blocks, repetition. Apart from that, they also reported markedly about the emotional issues. When they talk about any emotional component, they start or they have more stammering in that situation. So they need to handle the stress management, sometimes anger management, and sometimes we have to deal with the client's own personality aspect. So I think that's why the stammering is just like not only a speech, we have to deal with the client overall, all areas like cognitions, like emotions, as well as relationship. Because sometimes they reported that their relationships get affected due to stammering, because they hide their emotions from explaining, or to either from their closed one or from their peers. So stammering is just like, it's not only one domain. That's why now currently it is called as multidimensional disorder. So I think if there is not a person who is dealing with the emotional aspects, stammering cannot be dealt, or stammering is not successfully dealing, and person cannot fully recover in this way. Thank you. I think if Miss Amber or Miss Munazah is there, so she can answer. Otherwise, we can take Peter's opinion, and then we move towards next question. Teachers, kindly, Peter, can you hear me?
Sorry.
Peter, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, yes.
Can you answer on this question?
Sorry, what was the question?
Basically, my question is that what kind of symptoms, or you saw symptoms, the person who has stammering, they reported mostly in terms of speech as well as in terms of personal issues? What you experienced by yourself, or what you saw in your society, the people who have stammering problems, what symptoms they reported?
Yes. Look, I've been part of many self-help groups, and yeah, it's actually those self-help groups were for people who stutter. So naturally, they would complain about mostly about the physical stuttering. That was the impression which I had. But of course, as other people have also said, that it's not only just the physical symptoms. But what interests me is that the role of the unconscious, and my impression is that many people whom I have seen are not really aware of the enormous role which the subconscious plays in the whole of our lives and our speech too, and especially our emotions. And a very large part of my book is all about that. Dr. Sano, whose work I based my book on, was he thought that mind-body disorders are mainly caused by the repression of certain emotions, mostly anger, rage, fear, uncertainty, and that starts in youth. It starts in childhood. We tend to actually. Repression is a universal thing, as all psychologists will know. Everybody represses some feelings to an extent, but if you do it too much, then it can cause physical problems. According to Freud, Freud was one of the first persons who mentioned the possibility that repression and the repression of anger and rage and fear, that repression, that being unaware of your own feelings, that is a very unhealthy thing. Now and hereby comes the additional aspect of high sensitivity, which has also been referred to earlier here by Ramesh. It has been found, I think there was some research that most people who stutter, or at least most children who stutter, are so-called highly sensitive people. They are more sensitive, especially more sensitive to stress and tension, and yeah, such people are more prone to repress their feelings, their deepest fears, their natural angers. And if you do that, yeah, because repression is really a way of protecting yourself. It's protecting yourself from the threats of the world, especially if you are a young boy of 3 years old and you are highly sensitive. Then a way to deal with this difficult, complex world is to simply ignore those nasty feelings. Ignore your fears, ignore your uncertainty, even ignore your anger and rage, because I mean, all kids, as we know, all children can get angry, they can get frustrated. But now, what happens if a child is very sensitive and doesn't want to be angry towards his mother or father because he loves his parents? I mean, I was like that. I was like that. My mother told me that I was never angry when I was a young child. And it's because I loved my parents. I didn't want to be angry. And so I'm sure this is what caused my disfluency. I repressed, I subdued my anger. And of course my fears too, because I am that kind of that is my personality. And it's the personality of many people. So Dr. Sana, I think, made this crucial point that many children and adults too, they repress, they don't express, they don't feel, they don't allow their emotions to fully come to the fore. And that's really the core of my book, that when we express our feelings, we become much more fluent, because then we overturn that initial repression and we turn it into expression. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Miss Hina, are you there?
There.
Hello?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter. You explained in a very detailed manner. I think there is a next question from our panelist. What do you think that what are the roles of cultural values in terms of stammering? Can you explain that? Is this true that cultural values plays an important role in treatment of stammering?
Yes, that's, and if you say that, one thing comes to my mind, which is speaking fast. So that is a social value where a lot of people feel that if you speak fast, you appear competent. And if you slow down, you appear incompetent. And this is, for example, something I work with my clients on a lot, to make them understand that it's not how you speak, but actually what you say that is more important. To really put more value on the content of what you're saying. And this is, is the motto as well. Wait, what I say is worth waiting for. To really shift from, as a society, judging a fast speaker as a good speaker, which I don't agree with at all, but it's still a prejudice in society.
Thank you. Amber, can you answer this question?
Yes, sure. Yes, society and cultural norms are playing their role. For example, if we say that if there is a difference in parenting style, so if some parents are like keeping their things personal, they are not taking their children to therapists, or they are saying the difference in communication styles between parents and children, and still there is a difference in the sort of loudness of their voice, that you are not supposed to speak loud. So in turn, what happens is the children speak slow, so they are unable to understand whatever the issue is. Or there can be some families which tend to keep their things personal. They are like not supposed to open up to anyone. Or there can be cultural differences between the therapists. So these are the problems, barriers, you can say, a therapist is facing, clients are facing, depending on the nature of their home environment, depending on the schooling, their school environment, their society environment. There are barriers in making the effective management of stammering or any other speech disorder. Yes, Ms. Hina.
Over to you, Ramesh.
One of the ways which I feel that society can really appreciate stutterers is that we need to normalize stuttering. We need to make it a normality, because people meet people who have a stammer and they have stigma. But one of the ways where we normalize stuttering or get a great appreciation as a stutterer is by using what Dr. Sheehan mentioned as voluntary stammering. So we speak using the tools, and voluntary stammering or deliberate disfluency, what Maguire have called it, and what Stop Holding Back are now calling advertise.
Ramesh, with that, how the cultural values, society is sometimes different. The cultural values are sometimes different. Like in India, there is a different culture, and in Pakistan, a similar culture. And whereas in UK or US, the culture is different. So the cultural aspect, how you see cultural aspect?
How I see culture. Yes. So, what do you mean? What do you mean by the cultural aspect? I'm sorry. What do you mean? Can you be more specific? Like the way that UK sees stuttering.
Like like Christine has said, that people or the person who speak too loud or too low. It's a cultural concept. In terms of that. Or can I explain or I answer it first? Then you may understand.
Yeah, you can answer. Yeah, you can answer.
Okay.
You can answer.
Okay. Being a clinician, I saw in Pakistan that in Pakistan parents are like if a child is a stutter or speak not properly, they overstress them and they ask overly that they have to speak correctly. Overcorrection is there. And sometimes they didn't explain or they hide it from others, so that the people cannot point out their children that he's not speaking correctly. This is what culture plays a role, that our culture not able to explain anything in a positive way. They have to educate, we have to educate them. And same is like in stammering. Our culture is not able to accept this, that this is not a problem. This is a normal thing, and anybody can have this issue, and they must dealt in a very good way. That is the culture. Like in Pakistan. Now over to you.
And this is what I was explaining, because society has like ways in which they want us to speak, the ways that we get validated, the ways that we get accepted. So society lays that down. But being a stutterer who's been stammering for 34 years now, I started stammering when I was very young. One of the ways that what we can do as a community is that we can try to normalize it. And this is the role of the speech therapy. But the programs that I've been on, the programs that have tried to normalize things have tried to use voluntary stammering. Voluntary stammering is what Joseph Sheehan brought in, which means that we accept stammering by desensitizing it, by speaking like this. So instead of society having its norms and values, which what culture is and the way that it sees us, we normalize it by the way that we speak, because then we get more empowered by speaking on our terms rather than what culture is. Culture will always have its part to play, but we can influence culture by using what Dr. Sheehan called as voluntary stammering, what other programs are calling deliberate disfluency, what other programs are using advertise. So we try to influence stuttering on our sort of role and intentions.
So in this way, society can get an idea about it. Okay, I think Mr. Ahmad, can we move towards the next question?
Yes, sure.
Question number 10, I think you can ask. Now your
Yes,
net is fine.
No, I'm back on the phone, but of course I can ask. So the next question is, how much family is supportive in treatment? What you observed in your practice? That question I would like to ask from Ms. Christine.
Thank you. Yes, it's crucially important to involve the therapy, of course, a lot more with children than with adults. But even with the adults, I'm trying for them. So for example, very early on in today's call, somebody said that sometimes people even hide it from their family members, that they have a stutter. So I always encourage self-disclosure and speaking to family members, practicing with family members, which is always the first step to then actually take it out into the outside world and speak with strangers with your new technique, for example. So family can be crucial, especially if family is not on board, is maybe not supportive. So in terms of the children, it's always very, very important to make the parents understand that this is not their fault, that it's not their child's fault, and give them proactive strategies, what they can actually do, as I mentioned earlier. If they feel involved and they feel they can make a positive change, then that empowers them and it empowers the children. So it's very important. And not just to get the family on board, what I do with children very often as well, if they want to, then I go into their school class and just give some general information on stuttering. I might not even mention the child, but just basically so everybody knows what it's all about, involve the teachers as well. So as many people as I can reach, so the child is supported. And yes, as I said, with the adults, I encourage them to disclose their stuttering. So for example, with people who have high levels of avoidance, I would encourage them to disclose at least to one person each week, with a person they work with, family member or anybody else, so they get into the habit and slowly come out of their shell and feel more confident.
Christine, now I would like to ask this question from Amber. Are you there? Miss Amber. I think
Yes.
she's not here.
Thank you, Ahmad.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm here. I would like to say that family is very important. The important to the extent that we can say if family is not giving the child acceptance, the basic thing, acceptance, they have to accept their kid no matter how he's speaking, how he or she is speaking. So the first thing the family gives their child is the acceptance. Acceptance is like, okay, fine, you can talk like this, but they can take their interventions or the strategies they tend to have, but still they have to accept their kid. If they are giving acceptance to their children, then they will go further towards the society and they have confidence. So the family is like, the family is the one who is giving them the confidence to move on the society. If family is not supportive or family is not accepting, that child or that adult cannot go out or talk to others, as there is the main basic element of family. Family is the one we are living with whole time almost. So the family must be much supportive. They must take interventions and they must accept the children. The main focus of importance is that they must accept their kid with all errors, with all the way they communicate. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
Ahmed?
Yes. Well, that's true. The family is the base. Even we are stammerers, and we need to, improve ourselves. But we need support from the family. The backup, we need that. Yeah, that's true.
So you are the lucky ones who are getting support from your family. Lucky ones. Otherwise,
yes.
friends are like, oh, you stammer, just at aside. We are gonna talk with other kids as they are quite fluent. So you are lucky one, Ahmed. You are getting support with your family.
Oh, well, that's true. Moving forward with the question, I would like to Miss Hina. Are you there?
Yeah, family support is very important because during my PhD project, I first planned only with the adolescent, child, and adults. I didn't include family in the therapy protocol. But once I started, I saw that the treatment doesn't work much. So I added parents in treatment, and once I added, I saw remarkable changes, because family needs an education. Family should know how to treat their child or even adolescent. The type of expectations they have from their kids, we need to realize, we need to educate them in terms of realization that always do expectations what they have, or in a very nominal, sometimes we have high expectations which is not appropriate for the kid, and it may create a stress on them. So you must take advice from the clinician that what kind of expectations or what kind of motivation one person required from their family. So family plays an important role. Even family, even close circle, not only family. I must say teachers are also important, because after parents, teachers are the one who motivate child, who shape up their personality. So both are important in shaping one's person's life. Thank you, Emma.
Welcome. Yes, I will move this question to Peter.
Yes, about family. Yes, from a mind body point of view, it's a bit of a problem to explain mind body approaches to a young child, and to parents also. That's been my experience. Because, but yeah, let me first say what our or my approach with mind-body healing is, and that is to express. It's to get those hidden feelings out, because these children, they may not look anxious, but they've got inner anxiety which is repressed, and to get that out, they have to, the parents have to encourage them to take part in expressive activities such as writing, painting, drawing, dancing, those kind of, because those activities are all highly emotionally expressive activities. That's the way to really get in touch with yourself. So that is what I would say would be a good approach for parents, is to encourage their children to express themselves as they really are. And yeah, that and also another way of expressing yourself is by writing, of course. Writing it could be writing on paper or on a computer, but you have to write, because that is the way to get it all out. And that should be started at a young age. I actually do it myself. Actually, the two books which I wrote are really have been part of my healing, really, and I still do it. I do every day. I write about my feelings, and especially my hidden feelings and my not so nice feelings, my rages, my anger, my jealousies, whatever, because it's those emotions that drive a stuttering, and that maintain the problem. So they have to come out. By getting them out, you get rid of them. So that would be from a family point of view. That would be my advice.
Thank you, Peter. That was an lighting. Moving on to the next question. My next question is from Ms. Christine. What are the suggestions mainly you give to your clients while dealing with them?
Okay, so generally, what kind of suggestions I give to them?
Regarding stammering management.
Okay. Well, maybe I should explain a little bit about what Benetalk is and what we're doing. So we have actually developed a digital approach to speech therapy, which has three elements. And the first one is that we offer online therapy for people worldwide. We're using the Camperdown approach. So that's the speech technique part. And as I mentioned earlier, we're also using cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness techniques with the patients. So to work on the body and the mind. And so we're offering that online therapy. The second part is that we've developed an app for our patients to use alongside the therapy, which gives them the opportunity to practice in between sessions, because that is something we often find as therapists, that people don't know how to practice, or they forget, or they just lapse, and they don't do as much as they could and don't make as much progress as they could. So they have this app to help them. And then we're also developing a device which they can wear on their body, which is like a Fitbit for speech, which gives them feedback on their speaking patterns, their breathing patterns. So this is basically the bit where a speech therapist, if we see a patient once a week and they say, yes, I've practiced a bit, we still don't know what they've done, how much they've practiced, and how well they have practiced. And with this device, we can then actually see what they have done, and they can see it as well. And I mentioned earlier the maintenance phase of therapy, which is when we usually don't see patients anymore, or we see them very irregularly, so maybe once a month or even every 2 months, which is when a lot of patients lapse. And as Hina said earlier, the most important thing is that they continue practicing until they change their habits and don't stop once they've achieved a fluency level, but continue practicing. And this is what we're hoping with the app and the device. People actually have something in their pocket on a daily basis that encourages them, that gives them nudges, reminds them to practice, and just helps them to stay on target. So this is what we've developed.
Very nice. Now, I move this question to Ms. Hina. Are you with us?
First thing, I totally agree with Christine that once we explain in a proper way to our clients that they should practice, but they didn't practice much. They always practice for 2 days after the session and they forgot. And right after the week, they always reported to me that, Madam, kindly set your sessions right after 3 days because we forgot the techniques. And mainly they didn't forgot the techniques. Basically, they forgot to practice it. And they need constant monitoring. So I'm very happy to hear this, Christine, that you are developing such device, just like a stick, who always keeps on reminding them that they should practice and practice and practice. So through the most important, advice from my side to the clients, that they should practice and practice just like a breath. If they are taking breath, so they have to practice what they learned in the sessions. Always that is successful when they practice and maintain. Maintenance is the main part. Always any kind of therapy, not only for the stammering, but when clients came to me for their depression or some kind of anxiety problems or any issues, we always tell to the clients that they should practice, and then clinicians are there only to guide them. Then they're the one who help themselves. They always relapse, their experience relapse when they forget all the techniques. So practice, practice, and practice, and practice means apply in the real world. So make it a habit. Thank you.
Well, that's true. The practice is the key, and practice makes the man perfect. This is the right thing. Now, moving on to the last question, and
I think take opinion from Peter and as well as from Ramesh on this question,
sure,
because Ramesh is also dealing with the client. So what's experience?
Would it be possible if you could repeat the question, please?
Yes, sure. Oh, just a minute. Yes, the question is, what are the suggestions mainly you gave to your clients while dealing with them?
Well, in terms of my own sort of coaching that I'm doing with people with speech issues, are that I'm initially dealing with the emotional side. I'm dealing with their anxieties, getting to know them. And because I've got experience of psychotherapy and mindfulness, I'm involved in that. I'm getting to know the people that I'm working with and what they're about. And then I'm relating that in terms of John Harrison's hexagon by answering them questions on their behaviors and getting to know them on that level, getting to know their beliefs, their perceptions and their emotions and their intentions, and getting to know about the physical state. And then once I have a really good understanding, sort of psychologically, because a lot of these questions, like Peter said, are actually in the unconscious. If you relate it to like Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud's work, a lot of our answers are not in the conscious. A lot of our minds, a lot of our problems are, and the answers are within the unconscious. And a lot of us have stammered for years and had speech therapy and everything and joining programs. But I feel that it's important to understand the client at their base and work on them in terms of understanding them and relating theories, but putting the practical sides of Jung and Freud and John Harrison, and then working on their speech using the approaches that Van Riper, Dr. Sheehan you have used, and then but I feel that we need to first understand them at a psychological level and then work with them on their speech level.
So Ramesh, what kind of basically you suggest to your client, suggestion for your clients?
And initially, I do use a lot of when I do like an initial assessment with them, I get to know them and I ask questions like, is there anything that's triggered you in your childhood? Is there anything that is how have you been in the last couple of years? Asking them questions which are more emotionally based, asking them questions about, is there anything that they've noticed from their behaviors or anything, and going deep into these areas. But that's where the answers lie. And then after I've got a good understanding of that, and then you can work on their speech using the technique that I've explained.
Okay, thank you. Peter, I want to ask the same question, that what suggestions do you think one should be given to the clients or a person who have a stammering problem?
Yeah.
If you are a person, what you suggest to the other one?
Yeah, I would say, as I also mentioned in my book, is a mind-body approach would say, be expressive, express yourself. Do not do the opposite. Do not repress, but express. That means say your say, and that's the one thing. The also and what comes, which is also part of that, is assertiveness. You have to be assertive. You have to speak up. You have, even if you have disfluency, you have to make a point. You have to. I'm not saying you must be aggressive, but you must be assertive. That is so important for us, because many of us are inhibited. We repress, we suppress our feelings. So we should do the opposite. That is the psychological part of what worked for me. So that is the mental part, the mind part, but the body part is also important, and that is a good speech technique. I've been helped much by the so-called passive airflow technique, which was developed by Dr. Martin Schwartz, and it's a fantastic technique, but it requires work. And it's not well known. It's not used much outside of the US. I think there are a few countries who do use it, but
Which technique? Can you repeat that? I didn't hear clearly.
the passive airflow technique.
Passive?
The passive airflow technique. Yeah.
Okay. Airflow technique. Okay, fine.
Yeah, the main thing, the main difference of this technique is that you have to let out a very slight passive stream of air before you speak, and
that
before
is
you speak.
like we can call it as a deep breath. Before you speak, you have to take a deep breath, slowly airflow, and then speak like this one.
No, it's you. If you breathe too deep, your airflow is going to be pushed. It's going to be forced. It has to be like this. I will demonstrate it.
Yeah, please.
My name is Peter Louw. I'm not sure if you can hear that flow, but it's a characteristic sound. It's like this is the airflow.
Okay. I got it. Okay.
Yeah, it should be a very faint. It's a very faint flow, and it opens the vocal cords, and I find it extremely effective because
it's a smooth flow.
Yeah, and then after you have this flow, then you say the first syllable slowly.
Yeah.
So,
it's a Breton Fell manual. He also wrote that. First you take that and then slowly prolong the first syllables, not the word, and with the light contact also. The same is the way.
For long words, it's the first two syllables.
Yeah.
For short words, it's just the first syllable.
Thank you so much, Peter. I think Amber, you please answer that. What kind of suggestion you gave to your client, or you suggest that?
Yes, Ms. Hina. I usually suggest them to stay positive, to have self-confidence that yes, you can do, you will do a better job, inshallah. So I just ask them to practice the learned techniques, to complete their homework assignments on time, and practice as much as they can. And by maintaining their self-confidence, by maintaining the spirit, motivation to the whole learned techniques, so this will eventually help them to become habitual with the whole learned techniques. So just ask them to stay positive and have self-confidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ahmed, I think we have a last question. After that, one person, we got some questions on a Facebook.
Sure.
So I think you can ask the last question, then we move towards that.
Sure. My last question with all the panel this is how and on what areas new researches will help society in dealing with stammering. So I would start with Ms. Christine.
Okay, thank you. Well, we are actually currently carrying out a research study with Benetalk. So we have 24 participants, and all of them have gone through a block of therapy with a camper-down program. And we're now in the second phase of the therapy where they are in the maintenance phase, and they are using our app and our device. So we are hoping to see that this actually makes a difference to them maintaining and hopefully even making more progress during the maintenance phase. And the results are going to be, so the study finishes in September, and we're going to have the report hopefully by October, November this year. So we'll be publishing our results, and we're excited about it as everybody else, because we, you know, it's the first time we've tried this.
We're also excited after hearing your thing. So looking forward to that.
Yes.
Because research always demand innovation, and always society need that. Because once you do the research, definitely it is beneficial for the society. And in Pakistan, first time I started CBT with the speech therapy. So I'm hoping also for better results. My results will be published in, inshallah, after February. So I would like to share with you, and also I want your results to what kind of results you have, and in future maybe we can work on the same lines in Pakistan.
Yes, yes, that would be very interesting. And also, I just wanted to mention, we're not just looking at what the device and the app are doing for the people who stutter, but we also incorporated the CBT, as I've mentioned. So we had some measures of the ABBAS, if that's familiar to you, so the unhelpful thoughts and beliefs about stuttering, and the OASIS at the beginning of therapy, and after the first therapy phase. And so we're also looking at the mental health and all the other aspects in our participants to see which effect our therapy had on them. So yes.
I actually enjoyed while doing CBT with stammering clients.
Me too. Yes, it's very rewarding.
Yeah. Okay. Now I think we should move towards Ramesh and Peter on that question, and then
Peter, are you with us?
Yes. Research-wise, well, I'm not a researcher myself, but I know that within the area of mind-body, there is lots of research being done at the moment. I mention it in my book, but it's more with chronic pains and things like that, and not really with speech problems as such. So I think I'm one of the first persons who's actually made a link between the other mind-body issues and speech issues. Yeah, so I wish there would be more research into this, because I think there are great possibilities here with a mind-body approach to stuttering.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, Ramesh.
Would it be possible if you could repeat your initial question? Yes, so I can think about it.
Yes, the question was how and on what areas new researches will help society in dealing with stammering?
In terms of me, I'm not a researcher. I'm just, I work in a different field, but what I can tell you is that there's been, in terms of research, it's about two things. It's about reliability and it's about validity. And basically, from my experience, the course that I was on, the Maguire program, it's been running for 25 years now. And the Maguire program has managed to help a lot of people that I know across the world. It's been able to help people in the USA. It's been able to help people in Europe. It's been able to help people in Asia and in Australia, where it is. And it's been really beneficial. And in terms of the reliability and the validity, I feel like it's been effective. And if research is ever done, I feel like, because of the number of graduates that I've spoken to, probably spoken to like 1,000 graduates in America and in Europe, and in Asia and in Australia. It's been giving people a lot of transformation, because one of the areas, if you're talking about validity and reliability, yeah, on a large basis, I can argue that. But in terms of my own journey, I used to have a stammer where I used to stammer on like whole words in every sentence. I couldn't really say a lot. And you can really sort of see me now. I can have a conversation for the last sort of 2 hours and not even sort of have a block. And I feel like, yeah, it's really transformed me. It's been a great transformation in my own life where I've been able to speak. But I'm not a researcher, but I know that research works on reliability and validity, because those are the most important issues behind research.
Thank you. I think we have most of the questions are already answered. One question I just saw on Facebook. There is a question that about coastal breathing. What is the effectivity of coastal breathing? Please, I asked this question from Christine and Ramesh. Christine, can you explain what is the coastal breathing, if you ever tried with your clients, or what kind of effectivity you saw?
Okay, so I'm not using coastal breathing with my patients because it's part of the McGuire program, and we don't offer McGuire. But I know what it is, and I've seen the effects, and I think for many people it is very effective, especially for people with severe stutters. It can, enable them for the first time to actually string a sentence together, and really helps their communication. Personally, I prefer speech methods that actually really help the person to speak very naturally at the end of the program. So I think with some people who use the McGuire approach, it still sounds unnatural because we don't usually breathe on every third word. So, but some people like Ramesh, if you've done McGuire, it's unnoticeable, but you said you're not using techniques at the moment.
No.
Yes. Okay. So yeah. So I'm cautious because I know the McGuire program is very much against speech therapy. But if it helps somebody, I'm very happy, because that's what we're here for. Not different techniques fighting against each other or demonizing each other. So I think it's a good technique, but I personally don't use it in my clinic.
I can answer being a clinician. I totally agree with Christine, because when clients came to me and discussed this coastal breathing and McGuire program, I also not personally using with my clients because it doesn't look natural. Because when you are sitting with the people, sometimes it's very difficult to do the same breathing, because in a normal way you don't breathe in the same way, and at the same time your brain get confused that what kind of breathing I have to follow, and they all together have more blocks. So I totally agree again. If somebody following that and it is helpful for them, so do it. Basically, being a professional, being a clinician, I always recommend other person just apply the technique which helps you. Basically, we are not here to fight with each other. We should support whatever the solution is.
That's right.
But personally, I don't agree with that. Now, Ramesh, over to you.
And yeah, I'm not here to have a fight, but I appreciate the work that speech therapists are doing. I appreciate the work that professors are doing who are working in speech therapy. It helps us all. You guys are helping us as much as we're helping you. And in terms of McGuire, Starfish, Benetalk, it's all the same. You guys are providing help. And in terms of coastal breathing, it works. It doesn't work for some people, but everybody should be using this because it's a toolkit that's been brought in. Because the people who used coastal breathing initially was the Dehnhardt program, and the Dehnhardt program, it worked on people who were like opera singers. But in terms of coastal breathing and my journey, yeah, coastal breathing does work, but you have to work really, really hard on getting it to work. But one of the reason why coastal breathing is used is that it gets over the flight or freeze, or neither fight or flight response, and when we get into the freeze, when we have a block. And this is what I'd like to say, is that it doesn't matter if you're doing coastal breathing or belly breathing or any kind of breathing. We need to do breathing like conscious breathing, because conscious breathing will overcome like the freeze from the fight or flight response. Because so that's how breathing works, and breathing can help you get out the block. But one thing that I'd like to say is that it's a toolkit, but we should appreciate everybody's technique. And Benny Talk, Maguire, Starfish, speech therapists, you're all helping us, and the community works like together. We don't really sort of dismiss different ways and different, because it might work for 100 people, it might not work for 400 people, but it's a tool that's out there, and we should seek appreciation that somebody's actually helped a lot of stammerers by working on coastal breathing, and that's all I'd like to add.
Thank you. Peter, can you share your views on this?
Well, I must say I haven't done the Maguire course, so I can only say what I've heard about from other people. I have tried the coastal breathing. It works. I think it's a physical technique, you know. I think you actually seems you force out your breath, and in that way you force open your vocal cords. So it works very physical. Because I certainly believe that the physical cause of stuttering seems to be a vocal cord problem, where the vocal cords kind of go into freeze mode. They kind of lock down, and this low breath from your belly kind of forces those vocal cords wide open. So in that way, yes, it seems to resolve the vocal cord lock. Personally, it works, but I'm not personally very comfortable with it for various reasons. My training has been otherwise. I've trained with the passive airflow technique, which is not really breath-based. I personally don't worry about breathing at all. It comes naturally. I worry about what my vocal cords are doing. And if I can keep the tension on my vocal cords low and be below my threshold, then I'm fluent. As soon as my tension level rises above my threshold, then whoops, my vocal cords lock and I block and stutter. So but look, as Ramesh also said, well, whatever works for somebody, and some people like the Maguire approach, some people like passive airflow, like myself, some people like this, and some people like that. We are all different, and so whatever works is good for you.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. So now we can, I think we have our panel questions have come to an end. We can ask questions from the audience. People are present. If they like to ask questions from us. Sikandar, do you have a question to ask?
Yes. I lost my connection, and due to some reasons, I think, Christine, I will answer you. I just lost my chat.
Sure, please.
Now continue, please.
Yes, like the questions have ended. So yes. So I was just asking if someone wanted to ask question, or from the panel, if you guys wanted to clarify some things or ask the things from each other, feel free. Yes, Ms. Hina, would you like to ask a question?
No, all clear. I think you can take views from our panelists.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Sure. Starting from Christine, how was the panel discussion? Yes.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. Yes, thank you again for inviting me. It was a very good discussion.
Yes, Peter.
Yes, I would also like to say thank you very much for inviting me. It was very interesting. It was also a good practice for me to really talk in public again, because being retired, I don't see many people except my wife and child. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Ramesh.
Yeah, I really appreciate being part of the conversation, and and I really thank you for having me as part of the discussion. And it's been really great to hear the different perspectives, and it's really taught me quite a lot. And I really have a lot of gratitude for the meeting, because I learned a lot from speech therapists to authors, to academics, to people who are just working as being better communicators by embracing working on my speech techniques. I really appreciate your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Mr. Amber.
Yes. Sorry for the interruption. There was a net issue. So is this an ending note?
Yes, yes. Like we were asking about the comments from the panelists on this panel discussion.
Okay. So basically, this was great. We have learned a lot from all the experts, the practitioners, from Christiane, Peter, Ramesh. So I thank you all. I thank you, Ahmed, for making me part of it and enriching my knowledge. So this is great. You are working great. PSF is working great. And I wish the best of luck to PSF. And I look forward to organize or be a part of these meetings again. Thank you. Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you, Ms. Hina.
Yes, Ms. Hina, please share your comments. Then
thank you so much,
I will
Mr. Ahmed. Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for inviting me, and I'm very happy to be a part of this panel. It's a great learning experience for me to have a talk with so many different domain people are there. They share experiences, and I think you always try to do new things and engage such events, arrange such events, so that because collaboration is very important. So thank you so much, and congratulations for having such a beautiful event. Thank you, everyone who joined us. It's a great learning experience for me. Thank you.
Yes. On the behalf of Pakistan Stammering Foundation, I would like to thank all the panelists and the participants for being here and attending the panel discussion. Especially, I would like to thank Ms. Christine, Mr. Peter, Mr. Ramesh, Mr. Amber, and Ms. Hina. And I would like to also thank Ms. Humaira and Ms. Munazah. They were here earlier, but due to internet interruption, they were not able to continue with us. And I would like to also the team of Stammering Foundation for working so hard and making this happen. I would like to thank Ms. Sumera, Ms. Isra, and Nazish, and Mubin. All the team was working so hard throughout the week throughout the week of this Stammering Awareness Week, and making it possible to conduct these 3 panel discussions. Thank you so much, everyone. And the Pakistan Stammering Foundation has the vision to help society stammerers, not only stammerers, but also psychologists, speech
I think Mr. Ahmad got some issues
yes,
with
yes.
internet.
I'm
Okay.
back. Sorry, I was connected. So I will be quick before I get disconnected again. So I was saying that Pakistan Stammering Foundation has a mission and vision to not only help stammerers to be on their feet and to become like the important part of society and make themselves better personally and professionally. Also, Pakistan Stammering Foundation would like to help psychologists and speech therapists to not only gain knowledge in this domain, but to do further research in the field of speech and language impediments and make this world a better place. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Mr. Ahmed, here is a message from Ms. Humaira because she texted me. She said, I'm delighted to be a part of today's panel discussion. Yes. Very well organized and indeed a milestone. So that is the message she texted me, Ms. Humaira Naz.
Okay.
So thank you, Ms. Humaira. I conveyed your message to the panelists, and she's very thankful to all panelists also.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Now it's over.
Lovely
now?
night. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Take care. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Ramesh.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amber. And thank you, Ahmed.
Have a good night.
Care. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
You all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Ramesh, Ms. Hina, and Ms. Amber. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Good night.
Take care. Bye. And now I'm going to end up meeting. Yes, the panel this session. You guys soon. Take care, Peter. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care. Thank you. Thank you so much for giving time.
It was very interesting. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks. Bye-bye.